The talk is called Music and the Doing Revolution, and this is an interactive tech talk with tech. And our speaker slash our performer is Tim Exile. He's the founder and CEO of the company Endless, written with 3 S. He's a musician, he's a technologist, he's a thinker, an entrepreneur, he's an advocate of the flow state, and you've been featured in TechCrunch, in Wired, in Pitchfork, and you've talked at TED. So I'm really excited to have you here today at Most Wanted Music. Let's give it up for Tim Exile.
An extra bar at the end. Thank you. Thanks very much. No pressure. So I do actually have a little demo thing which I was going to fit in at the end of the talk if there was time, but maybe I'll try and rush through stuff to make sure that there is, since the precedent has been set. But yeah, so I will try and demonstrate to you Endless live later on. But yeah, so I'm Tim Exile. I'm the founder of Endless. And so yeah, the title of this talk is Music and the Doing Revolution. And what I mean by the doing revolution is there's this big trend that's been sort of happening over the last 10, 20 years, which is media is moving away from something we consume to something we do together, and something we do as a language. We use it to build relationships, communities, identities, audiences and brands and so on. And this is what we're really trying to bring to music with Endless. But to explain how I've come to this, and also, firstly, I want to explain a bit about my personal story, how I came to this, and then I'll talk about a bit more about what I mean by the doing revolution, and then I'll show you some of the stuff that we're doing with Endless. So this is where my musical journey began. I was 5 years old. My primary school sent me home with a note to my parents saying, "Does your son want to learn to play the violin?" And my mum looked at me and said, "You don't want to play the violin, do you?" And I was just like, hell yeah, I want to play the violin. Because, I saw the violin as this instrument where I could put my bow on the string, move my hand, move my arm, music would come out. And when I stopped, the music would stop. And I could stand up on the stages, I could be wonderful, everyone would look at me, and I'd be able to express myself to the world. That was what got me into playing the violin. Didn't take me long to realize that it's a hell of a lot of hard work to play the violin and takes an hour's practice a day. So I'm no longer a violinist, sorry. But then, flash forward 6 or 7 years, I was at secondary school, and a friend of mine's older brother gave me a bootleg rave tape. It was from this event in 1992, Castle Donington. I think it was a tape of Groove Rider or something like that. Anyway, put it on my Walkman. I was 12, 13 years old, super impressionable. It blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. And I knew from that moment that I wanted to devote my life to somehow bringing the immersive experience of this sound world to the wider world in whatever way I could. So I taught myself to DJ. I bought some shitty turntables. I bought some questionable records. Taught myself to beat mix, and very quickly got very bored after under a year. Tried to modify the turntables with some components anyway, didn't go very well, they broke. And I wanted more control over the music. I wanted to have more of my voice in there, and I was just playing other people's records, basically. So I started to teach myself to produce. I developed over 5 years, I developed my production chops. And eventually, I started releasing records, and getting radio play and so on. And yeah, so some of the records I released. And but I was missing something, because in these kinds of tools, I had the control. I had the control I wanted, and I could be very precise. But what I was doing was basically sitting in a chair, completely disembodied, typing in information, basically, into this computer screen, where I was designing music that I thought, this is what I think the thing that is going to happen in the future should sound like. Design it, press play. Oh, no, it's not quite. Go back, redesign it, chop it up, do it again. No. And then that process would go on for days on end. And I was completely disconnected from the music. I didn't have that like bow on the string, make the noise stops thing. So, but I was still in love with this whole electronic music sound world. So I taught myself to program. I got this package called this software called Reactor. I mean, everyone in this room knows Native Instruments, right? So this is one of their first products. It came out in the late 90s, and it's a digital modular. I mean, they called it a synth, but it's actually everything. It's a way of programming whatever you want to program with music and sound. So I started making tools that would allow me to improvise. Again, kind of improved my programming chops, and eventually I made this instrument called the Flow Machine. And the Flow Machine was the electronic instrument that I wanted to play. It allowed me to just step up to the machine, play stuff in the moment, and let the music evolve, in real time, spontaneously. So this next video, unfortunately I couldn't bring the Flow Machine. I used to tour with it, but it's like 40 kilos and backache. So, but I'll do that bit on my iPhone later with Endless. So yeah, this is completely improvised. I didn't plan any of this at all, so I'm not going to claim that it's awesome, but it's live, and it has a certain flow to it, and it definitely feels like something that it's me doing my thing in the moment. That was a Flow Machine, and so I decided that I was going to abandon my recorded music career and then try and kind of transplant that whole audience and forge a career where it's just me going around improvising completely on the spot. But I very quickly ran into the reality that the music industry is about this. It's not about improv, and if you're not creating content that people can latch onto and build a relationship with, then you don't really have a career in the music industry. I mean, yeah, there are certain niches like jazz, and certain kind of like quite sort of underground cultures that are about improv, but it's very hard to get any traction as an artist if you're improvising. And that set me off on a whole thing. Like, why? So, firstly, like, I love improvising. It's great fun. It's much more rewarding. Well, for me, it was much more rewarding than making recorded music. So why wasn't there a place for musical improv? Why was it just this weird, like, sort of dirty like noodling, that everyone was kind of, people just weren't really into. So, and then I thought about, like, in sports, for example, like footballers. Footballers aren't known for the amazing content they produce. They're known for their skill. If you go to a football match, you you're going because you know that like the whole football team, both the football teams have got their 10,000 hours of expertise and have become really amazing. You go to see the potential of what they could do. You don't go and see them to regurgitate what they have done. So I was just like, okay, how can we make this happen for music? And then I went back thinking about like how the media industry has evolved to where we've got to now. So before Edison recorded sound, music was something that we came together to do. And it was crucial in helping us form and deepen our relationships with each other. Then, in the 19th century, Edison figured out a method to separate content from creation. And that is when the media industry was born. And the evolution of the media industry since then has been a story of increasing democratization. I just want to look at how that's happened with the moving image. So, the BBC and various other companies, they democratized consumption of the moving image. So they built companies that would where professionals would create content, and then huge distribution networks where this content would be broadcast to us consumers. They democratized consumption. Then in the 80s, the camcorder came along and democratized creation. So we could all afford to have video cameras. We could take videos of our holidays, of our kids growing up, and show those back to our family. We could plug them into the TV, show them back to our families. Then, obviously, in the middle of the 2000s, YouTube came along and democratized broadcasting. So now we had the entire media tool chain that had been democratized. We had creation, consumption, and broadcasting, and we all had access to it. But what happened next, I think, is actually the most important thing in the doing revolution. We had apps like Snapchat and various other apps who came along, and they took all three of those things, creation, consumption, broadcasting. They put them in a single, simple-to-use app based around a short format, and I think that's one of the most crucial points. It's based around short format, and they made the medium recreational. It didn't have to be amazing, standard, high-quality stuff. You could just do it recreationally, conversationally. And then, of course, most recently, TikTok has come along and added this layer of collaboration and challenges. And as media has evolved, what's happened what's happened throughout this evolution is that what I call the content loop, which is a loop between creation, sharing, consumption, responding by creating something in the same medium that the original thing you consumed was in. This is the content loop. And this has become more accessible, more connected, and it's spinning faster and faster. Now, there's a sort of cautionary tale in here as well, because we think of like how this is, attention spans are decreasing and we're ever more distracted. But there's another really positive story to tell here, is that what the content loop is doing, what the more connected and faster content loop is doing, is it's turning media from something we just sit back and consume to something that we do, and we do it together. And it transforms the medium basically into a language that we can use to build relationships and identities, businesses, brands, communities, all that kind of stuff. And so this is what we want to do. This is what Endless wants to bring to music. And so it comes off the back of a personal story. My personal story, that I always wanted music to be like this, and it took me quite a while to figure out that this is actually what's going on, and this is where improvisation fits in the world. So we launched our beta iOS app for creators about 6 months ago, and I'll just play you the launch video we did. It explains better than I can live on stage. So it's like a chat room for making music. So you make these little riffs, super quick to make, and as soon as you've made that riff, it's sent to everyone else who's in your jam. So a jam could be, well, it could just be you on your own, or it could be, a few of your mates. We've had some jams with up to 500 people in, which are kind of like chaotic but fun. But so you make riffs, you share them in the jam. Anyone can pick them up, remix them, add something, and so the conversation goes. And it's music making that is conversational. It's almost like storytelling. And very quickly, people have already started making like pretty decent sounding music. And I just want to play you a few of the riffs that people have made. And these were actually made within just a couple of weeks of our launch. So these are all riffs that have been made by multiple people from all over the world.
Method of communication with my family. Method of communication with.
One of the most exciting things over the last 6 months has been seeing the community come together and just self-organize. And what I found really interesting is that all the kind of hallmarks of a language are emerging, that people are kind of establishing etiquettes, they're establishing norms, there's a culture. People sometimes get very defensive about like how people should jam in a jam and what kind of people they want to jam with. And also people are spending like a lot of time in the app. So our average top daily user spends 8 hours per day in the app, which is, I mean, borderline worrying, but it's just amazing. There's a really strong culture that's forming. So recently we started doing live streams on Twitch because, so basically people have started forming bands. And these aren't bands who kind of like meet in a rehearsal room in Friedrichshain. These are bands who meet on Endless, and some of their members are in the US, some are in the UK, some are in Germany, and they jam together live, and we've been streaming their live performances on Twitch. So this next video is a video of a Twitch stream. What do you call that? It's like a highlight. That's what we call them on Twitch. Sorry. Anyway, so this is the highlight from a Twitch stream we did. Based around, I'm a kid of the 90s, so it's based around like old school rave and breaks and stuff like that. So yeah, this is Amen Breaks Are Us, like a kind of scratch band playing together live on Endless. And you can see the riffs coming in down at the bottom there. So every time the name changes. So Red Sky Lullaby is just putting this kind of 303 over the top. And this is all happening live, I think. But yeah, this is from the US, the UK, and Germany. Right. But anyway, so okay, so I'll just try and do a quick live jam because that's what was promised. So yeah, I'm going to be in the speakers lounge after this. Also, Matt from Endless, we've got a little stand out there, so if you want to come and have a go, see what it feels like to make riffs and collaborate with people in real time, come over, and I'll just do this cheesy thing, which apparently someone says I always do all the time, which is very derivative embarrassing. But very derivative embarrassing. Very derivative embarrassing. Very And that's about it. 5 seconds left. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tim. I think you can stay up on stage because we're going to have a few questions before you head on over to you said you're going to be going to the speakers lounge afterwards.
That's a deal, isn't it?
Exactly,
Yeah.
that is indeed the deal. But a few questions came through Slido, so let's take a look at it. The first one comes from Ableton Freak. Why did you choose Reactor instead of Max for Live?
Okay, the honest story, this is complete serendipity. So there was a free CD on front of Future Music. Do you remember Future Music? Do you remember when they had the CDs? Anyway, and I installed this thing called Sync Modular, which was a digital modular, and it was for free. But it had an upgrade option to upgrade to be able to load your own samples. And it was the first piece of software I ever paid for. And anyway, long and short of it, Native Instruments acquired Sync Modular. Which is by Vadim, who basically made Reactor Core, and I got a free copy of Reactor. That's why.
Oh, okay, cool. Next question is, who is Endless for? So I'm guessing this is your target group.
Yeah, so, I mean, we want to make music making available to everyone, obviously, but that's not going to happen overnight. What we've noticed with the beta app is that they're generally quite skilled musicians who really get into it. We've got lots of people who've tried it out, but the people we've got like 50 sort of hardcore Endless addicts at the moment. And they're generally quite skilled musicians. But they're generally not people who've got, careers or large name. We've had a few kind of bigger name artists come and do stuff, and they're like, this is absolutely amazing, but I need to put my musical effort and time into my career. So one of the next things for us to do is to then build features that allow them to really build an audience, because we don't really have those features yet. They're coming soon. So it's people like heads, I call them. People who like really love music and just do music for the love. But that's also broadening out. We've had a lot of parents giving it to their kids. Mm-hmm. There's a Kinder Chaos jam on Endless, cool, where kids just like steal their phones from their parents.
Cool. Nice one. Next question, when will it launch in Germany?
So it's still in beta. There are, if you want an invite link to the beta, come and find me afterwards and I can tell you where to get one. But we're going to be shutting down invites soon because we're rolling out basically the first version of the version we'll launch with. Don't want to commit to a launch date because we've still got stuff to build, but it's going to be early next year. Okay,
and there's two more questions that came in. How many sounds does your library have, and can you upload your own sounds?
You can't currently upload your own sounds. You can sample your own sounds in, so it's got Ableton Link, so you can sync it up with your DAW. You can sync it up with a modular. You can pipe your modular in and jam with that. We've got, like most of our kind of hardcore jammers actually jam with external hardware as well as the internal sounds. We have very few internal sounds at the moment. It's amazing what people get out of those sounds because they work in combination with effects. So you can make one simple sound, but then you can affect it and then re-effect it and then remash it up. So it's amazing what people get out of just a few sounds.
And can you live stream directly in Endless?
Really interesting question. So yeah, basically that's what we're working towards.
Okay.
We're working towards An app where you can go and the first thing you see is like all the cool jams that are happening right now. Because at the moment, it's more like WhatsApp. It's more like WhatsApp for music making. So you have to know the people who you're going to jam with, and you have to invite them off the platform.
Got it. And the last question is, are there artists using Endless to engage with their fan base? And is it a potential marketing and engagement platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't have these features yet. As I was just saying, it's more like WhatsApp. We don't have the discovery network in there, but we're building this literally as we speak. I'm not, but the developers are.
Cool. And one more question, how much will it cost?
So it's going to be freemium.
Okay.
So there'll be like a substantial free tier, and there will be a premium tier, which will include extra features, extra storage, stuff that pros will like.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time for all of these questions.
Thank you.
Exactly.